Okay, remember. Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So I'm going to talk about what happened here this morning. It's 8/22, 2025. Today is Friday, and it's maybe like 7:30 in the morning or something. Okay, so the government and the gangs and the police and the military, the FBI, the Jewish community, etc. They've been working together, right? When you look at it and you ask yourself who's in charge, obviously whites, Jews, and LGBT people are telling these people who are foolish enough to be of this world to, gang stalk people and to play their game or what have you. Okay, it's just like the corporations, the government, right? Donald Trump, Vance, okay, Hegeseth, Bondi. There's no shortage of examples of these people who are exerting influence over those who are foolish enough to let them, right? Elon Musk, okay, Homan, Miller, and on and on and on. And you have white supremacists, and in both parties really. You have Breitbart, Fuentes, Gaddis. I've talked about a lot of these people before, basically all these people before. Now, the Secretary of State oversees a lot of these psychological operations, right? As they say, the State Department. Some of these people have said, yeah, blame the State Department and so on and so forth. But it's more than the State Department. It's really rich whites, Jews, and LGBT people. So what has happened this morning is I had to kind of put them in their place, right? So things got more heated than usual. Even in a kind of disabled state, I man up, something they would never dream of doing. Just the thought of being disabled or being persecuted has them obeying pedophiles and their allies, period. And I think everyone needs to understand that a man isn't worried about, stubbing his toe in this life. He isn't worried about, having to stand on his own 10 toes. That's a bitch. A bitch is worried about having to stand on their own 10 toes. And when we're talking about man, right, virtue means man. It's not just the wordplay, it's clear here. So when you team up on somebody that's being fumed and poisoned, okay, that you're going out like a bitch, right? Instead of going man to man, it's a couple bitches sabotaging a man. So what happened this morning is, these guys basically probably didn't know exactly what was going on, but they were told to stand there and kind of, you might say an aggressive posture. They had a more aggressive posture than a lot of people and a more stern look on their face. And so while the government was communicating to me, and keep in mind there's 23 witnesses on record again, 23 witnesses on record to the psychological operation against me, including the fumes, the poisoning, etc. And that countless people have testified to what the patents show us, that the government has technology to covertly communicate to people, right? Maybe sometimes through the phone. I'm not going to elaborate on that because it's a more complex issue. People play dumb and gaslight and say stupid things. But, we'll say maybe through the phone, maybe planting a microphone in your car, maybe, they talk about things like voice to skull, okay, which is a play on words for, the voice of God in somebody when they're serving God, to them being, the walking dead. Okay, the body without the spirit is dead, faith without works is dead, like it says in James, right? So it's a play on words for that, right? They say V2K, there's all kinds of stupid wordplay there, occult wordplay, and the governing class are basically a bunch of occultists, very immature people, like their ancestors that formed immature groups. Now, so they basically were provoking me while I was being fused. Now, even if you believe that they were not communicating to me, keep in mind there's witnesses to the fumes. Just when you fume somebody by itself and law enforcement plays stupid, obviously society owes you lots and lots of money, right? So if it was in my head, which it's not, I assure you, and many people have testified that the government is covertly communicating to them. And there's gang code, there's police code, there's military code. There's no shortage of covert communication tactics that are being used by countless, thousands of groups here in America. So it is psychotic to, so to speak, to ignore the abundance of evidence that shows us that people are being harassed, and people who harass them often communicate with each other in a covert way. And the Klan, for example, burning a cross is a form of a semi-covert to covert communication to somebody, saying, hey, we're harassing you, and it's also provocation when you're not a bitch, right? When you're not a bitch, you can be like, okay, I'm going to show these people what have you. So we had a moment there, and the government, who's ordering these people around, they caused it to escalate, and I basically said, if I'm going to defend myself, you make a move, and I said it in a way that made it clear that if they didn't make a move, that their bluff was called, their spirit was trampled, the American spirit, the Israeli, the governing class, everyone rolling with them, gangs, you name it. They didn't make that move, God trampled their spirits. Then, they started going with their racist direction with it, right? Saying, look, the people who die every day, they're disproportionately black. I said, look, do you see a bunch of black people standing around with me with their fists in the air? Do you see them saying, we got his back, him right there? Okay, those who obey the commandments of God are my family, my people. Okay, the children of the devil, those who don't obey God, regardless of race, they're not my people. And I'm mixed, I'm mulatto. And mulattoes don't exactly group together with their fists in the air or something, saying, hey, we're mulatto, yay. No, that doesn't happen. So the 189,000 people who die every day are your peoples. You people do group that way. They are dying. And there's 380,000 churches that testify that many people, most people in your groups, I'd imagine, they believe in God. And they believe when someone's righteous that they're in the spirit of God. That means my spirit is killing 189,000 of you people every day. I'm in God's spirit, God's son in his right hand. But you ain't doing fucking shit. And actions speak louder than words. You are fucking dropping like flies and not doing a fucking thing. And you won't see me toe-to-toe, man-to-man. Yes, I'm in charge. Yes, I'm ruling in the midst of my enemies like the Bible says. Yes, you are fucking defeated today like you're defeated every moment of every day. What the fuck can you say? No, I don't like that explanation. No, like a bitch? What the fuck could you people say? You had the nerve to press me about my videos about the Jews and so on and so forth? I'll say what the fuck I want about the Jews anytime I want, whenever the fuck I want. I'm in charge. 189,000. Of you rich people, 4,700 a day or so. I'm in fucking charge. And you people are dropping like flies. And many of them begging for mercy on their fucking deathbed. You think I missed that for a moment? You think I missed the fact that you're cowards? And I'm standing on my own 10 toes like a man, as a man? I don't miss that for a moment. I'm in fucking charge. And you motherfuckers are on your deathbeds all the time begging for fucking mercy, begging for favors. I ain't asking or begging for shit. Motherfuckers! So clearly I'm right, and if they cripple me more, it's just them doing a bitch move. It's not to keep people safe. If you want to keep people safe, you wouldn't be provoking people. You wouldn't have caused the incident earlier, okay? And if, as usual, I should get the Nobel Peace Prize or something, because in the midst of racist harassment, in the midst of threatening behaviors that other people have verified are threatening, during the course of this, they've had people threaten my family as well, and they've told me. And I've talked to people who also felt that they were being stalked with me, and I have some of their testimonies on record. So it's on record that they've been attempting to terrorize me and attempting to make me feel threatened. But you see me flipping out and rushing somebody randomly, oh, fuck you. No, that's not me. That's something they would do, not something I would do. I've been moving masterfully. If it ever comes down to it, I will defend myself. And because they've crippled me, if somebody tries to assault me, I will fucking kill them. Why? Because I could likely be paralyzed or crippled or even killed because of the amount of damage to my brain and body. So I'm going to respond with deadly force as the top martial artist ever, who's slightly slowed down by crippling, but I'd put my money on me to make a long fucking story short. Okay? Even in a fucking wheelchair, I'd put my money on me. Because other people are too scared to be a fucking man and to stand firm for what's right. And I don't respect that at all. That is some bitch-ass shit. So keep in mind, I blame the governing class of the white Jew and LGBT people disproportionately, everyone according to their deeds. I've been kind of sticking up for people from maybe Gaza, people who are immigrants, just the people you would expect a righteous man to stick up for. And I don't think it's a coincidence that today they used people who look like they're Hispanic. If they're not Hispanic, I guess I apologize for that mistake if that is the case, but I don't know. From the distance I saw, they look like Hispanics, and they're in more like shape than most people, especially people these days with their low testosterone levels. And I don't think that's a coincidence. So maybe they're in the military, maybe they're in a prison gang, I don't know, but they're in kind of better shape. And no offense to anybody, but yes, I would have killed both of them if it came down to it. And since they didn't, pose an immediate threat, and the situation didn't escalate to the point where I would be justified to kill him, and I'm not in a rush to kill anybody, right? That didn't occur. So, keep in mind, I always say, go point by point with me. If you think that I'm crazy or something, you think that I'm a threat or something because of what I've been saying, put in the comments, okay? I'm 43 years old. I have no violent criminal history. I have no criminal history at all. It is fucking retarded to think that I'm a threat that needs to be contained. There's people who are in gangs. They're very membership in a gang makes them more of a threat logically than I am. Okay? And some of them are on parole for violent activities. There's all kinds of people beating their wives. There's people who, are doing all this violence in society, and nobody's in a rush to stop them. All this gang stalking, they didn't even investigate this case. I'm being fumed all the time. What about the threat to my health? So obviously if they took me to the psych ward over these videos I'm making recently, I'm going to have to sue them, because that's just ridiculous, right? There's no clear-cut threat here, but there is a threat to me all the time that I've reported several times. And where's the equal protection clause of the Constitution? Where's the application of the equal protection clause of the Constitution, right? This is an easy case to win. I'd try it myself if I, had trouble getting a lawyer or something, because it's pretty straightforward. Okay. So with all that being said, I'm going to have to make a video about Palestine that I wouldn't otherwise have made, because part of why this all happened is they were trying to tell me what videos to make and not to make, kind of thing. And they don't tell me shit. Okay, well, they're really trying to tell me what videos not to make. And, I'm free, especially when we're talking about white Jew and LGBT, but anyone else. I mean, everyone else is working from anywhere, right? So in a country where the history of white Jew and LGBT people harassing black people, enslaving them, and again, I'm not a black supremacist, I'm a moral supremacist, it's not logical to try to take away my rights, period, much less try to get me to obey the white Jew and LGBT. Okay, I would much rather, if I was, say that this was a plantation I just freshly got there, I would just rush them immediately and fucking kill them. I wouldn't obey them. I wouldn't be their slave. And so it is in this situation. Okay, I'll never be their slave. I'll fight to the death before that, or I'll die before that. I'll never, ever be their slave. And I urge you all to do the same. If they try to make you their slave in any shape or form, okay, they try to kidnap you, they try to hook you to a machine, whatever it is, okay, then you are absolutely authorized to fight to the death. There's a thin line between killing somebody and enslaving that person. Anyone who looks at this American history and thinks that, that if a slave killed their master that they should be charged with murder is a stupid fuck. Is a dumbass. You are not meant to be the slave of anybody. In terms of, when we look at this, where it gets tricky, because you see people say things like being a slave to God. But again, there's a big difference between somebody who's actually obeying God, and I'm the only one doing that, who's telling you to do moral things, who's not having you chained up, or not making you a sex slave, not, extorting your money, not forcing you to be their servant, or, controlling your labor unfairly, like, just doing things that are universally logical that God would told you to do. And somebody trying to fucking enslave you. You don't have to be on a plantation or in chains on a ship to be treated like a slave or to be a slave. Again, I'm not a black supremacist, I'm a moral supremacist. If it was blacks, Hispanics, and islanders, or Arabs, or whatever, doing it instead of white Jew and LGBT, then I would say that instead of that. But this is the situation here. And, I do not believe in just making videos about things in a way that's controlled opposition, or playing the game, or just blaming, other people of color. I chastise them quite a bit. And I don't hesitate to chastise them, even though they're victimized to a large degree, but I chastise them according to their deeds in a way that's fair. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not afraid to, I've been targeted all my life. If you listen to my story plays, they're trying to make it sound like I'm like sad or scared. I'm not scared at all. I'm not sad. I'm fumed. I'm thrown off, and I feel like I got the jitters or something. There's heavy fumes in my lungs right now. My tongue is like burning a little bit. My roof of my mouth. Okay, I'm having my jaws are moving slower. Right, like it has like this effect. I'm fumed and poisoned and drugged. Okay, and these are symptoms that can't be ignored. Okay. Um, the way my body has changed is an actual symptom that can't be ignored. And just the other day, there was some, I brought up the spots on my forehead. And my parents looked at it. 2 doctors looked at it and said, yes, it's some kind of fungus. These things aren't in my head. These things that are occurring, they're actually valid symptoms. When I was blinded, I went to the eye doctor. Said, yeah, that you have a problem with your vision. Okay, so it's not like I'm imagining these. Oh my gosh, this is happening. This is happening. Oh no, these are things that physicians have verified. Only a dumbass listens to this video and says, well, he's fucking crazy or something, and he thinks that he's having all these problems, and that reminds me of this one disorder. No. Physicians have verified it. There's witnesses to the psyop. The evidence is conclusive. I'm a person who deals in facts. That's why I win all my debates. That's why they couldn't beat me during my top martial arts challenge. Crazy people don't beat everybody at a top martial arts challenge. The most sane person to ever live does. Straightforward. Okay, so I made some of this video in clips, and I just briefly talked to somebody who said they're a psychologist, and they said, yes, the evidence is pretty clear here, and there's no evidence to suggest that there's something wrong with me, and it wouldn't be fair for law enforcement or mental health to say, hey, this guy is saying alarming things, because on top of everything else, I'm talking about self-defense. Okay, I'm not talking about being an aggressor or committing a hate crime or rushing some gang members or something. I'm not speaking in a way that reflects some kind of paranoid schizophrenic thinking that would lead to some person just minding their own business getting rushed or something. And obviously I don't approve of senseless violence. I've said that many times in my videos. I've written several books about when to engage somebody, and they're morally precise books, so logic is sound here. Also, I'm not any more mad at the Hispanic community than I was yesterday, but I am more mad at rich whites, Jews, and LGBT people, and anybody who would take their side. I'm more mad than I was at these people yesterday, what have you, because of what they've done today. We'll see here what happens here. Also, they've been using money to try to stress me out too. They've been using a lot of different tactics to try to piss me off, sexual harassment, what have you. It's also important to note that a lot of this started over specifically the latest video I made about why the Bible is by Baal, by Lucifer, and specifically the images of Jews that I used. And I even explained it in that video. I said, I didn't look for Jews who look funny looking, right? I looked for any Jewish pictures I could find, and I wanted there to be some degree of funny looking Jews in the pictures to show you several things. One, that there's consequences for changing my pictures, changing my voice, trying to play me out, and trying to make yourself look good at the same time, right? You and your groups. Okay, that's fair for me to kind of say, well, this is why they're doing it, because a lot of them look kind of funny, what have you. Okay, but there was no deliberate effort to do so. Okay, what popped up, because of the nature of how things are going these days, where a lot of people are acting weird. There's the woke stuff. There's a lot of far-right Orthodox Jews. A lot of the podcast people look kind of funny, right? The Young Turks look a little bit funny, right? And they've been there for forever. And they've also kind of conformed to the style we see today. A lot of people look funny. I'm not trying to insult the Young Turks. I say a lot of things that I agree with. They say some things I don't agree with. I don't see eye to eye with them in regards to not bringing up racial issues. They say things in a way that suggests that they think people should just talk about the economy and not highlight the fact that there's this massive racial disparity when it comes to the distribution of wealth. Again, there's many poor people who are white, poor people who are Jewish, but there's a racial pattern, a racist pattern in society that we see. And so they're kind of, helping the governing class keep down black people. I mean, their tactic reflects a formula, whether it's coming from them or not, okay, that reflects a pattern of going after black people, especially ones that are targeted, who are more likely to be poor, okay? Granted, and keep in mind that I say this, I don't want you to miss this, granted that when you help all poor people, you disproportionately help black people, and that's part of what the video I was seeing, I have in mind right now was about. However, It is stupid to act like racism isn't a problem. It affects dating. It affects religious conceptions. Not a coincidence that Anna from there is a Jew and a Jewish lady, and the other guy, I forgot his name, is like he's part Muslim or something, right? And we see historically that Muslims own slaves, um, or he's part Arab or Turkish or something. Um, the Muslims own slaves, and historically a lot of racism aimed at black people, a lot of racism from Jews. They own slaves in America, what have you. A lot of racism aimed at black people. Okay, a lot of racism in the Democratic Party historically, though they're more like independents, but they're very similar to the Democratic Party in that they don't really seek justice for black people. But they say things that are helpful to a lot of groups, but they're not really concerned with pinpointed justice. They're propaganda people. Okay, and I say this referring to them. Of the Jews I've come across, Anna might be one of the more fair ones. You know, certainly there's a lot of them that are a lot more unfair than they are, or that she is. And I'm referring to the whole show because they're kind of like a team, right? But they don't agree on everything. And this is a long story. I don't want to go way off the topic here. I really wasn't trying to insult her. When I was younger, I had a crush on her, to some degree, right? I had a crush on a bunch of. That's kind of what happens. You see a cute celebrity or whatever. But these are the facts here. I put justice over everything. In the last 16 years, I've had a total of 11 months of dating and relationships. Okay. And I've talked to thousands and thousands of females on the internet and I even did a study of something like, I forgot whether it was 2,500 females or it was 10,000. It took me several months or many months to do. Okay. So, and I've seen all kinds of weirdos, ugly guys, drug dealers, racists, wife beaters, idiots, assholes, you name it. Every type of asshole you can imagine, get all kinds of chicks during that time period. It has nothing to do with me not knowing how to talk to females. It has everything to do with society being racist, with gang stalking and targeting, with dating being controlled. There's gangs that tell their females only to date their gang members. There's corporations that coerce their staff. There's police that they have their dating rules, their unspoken rules, military, you name it, right? The government. There's just so many groups that control dating, and there's so many dumb fucks who are willing to do what they say, and it's just a fucking disaster. I'm not trying to disrespect anyone any more than they deserve to be disrespected. So I'll go ahead and say, with all this communication, this video, the only disrespect that's intended is the disrespect coming from God. And so some of the stuff you might think of it as open to interpretation, but I'll go ahead and say that to kind of address that. Okay. And you can imagine that dating it affects all these groups I just named too, and it's sad that they put themselves in that situation. Now I will, valiantly, I will courageously defend my righteous actions. I'll defend the agenda of God with my life, without hesitation. I'm not afraid. Again, they changed my voice, and they use fumes to change my brain state one way or another, and there's some evidence that suggests that they're hacking my brain, and it's more than a little bit of evidence, we'll say, to be very scientific about it, and to deal with the facts and not any mental state of mind, but just the facts that have been verified by other people and other testimonies as well.